Now, the question of the purpose of the book of Romans is important for two reasons. The first is historical. The Bible is history, so we want to know, why did Paul write this letter? But there's also a practical purpose to it, namely, what use are we going to put the book of Romans to? And the purpose will inform that question. So the purpose of Romans has been studied for a very long time. So in the Reformation, people say that it was regarded as a compendium of theology, so depravity, justification, union with Christ, predestination. You'd go there to learn about doctrines. I think that's a bit unkind to the reformers, but we'll leave it there for a moment. But more recently, scholars have realised that the book of Romans, like Paul's other letters, are really occasional. They're written into particular situations and settings. So the occasion of Romans, most scholars say, is threefold. And basically, in Romans 15, Paul tells the Roman church he wants to use them as a base of operations for extending his mission to Spain. So he's proclaimed the name of Christ in quite a bit of the Roman Empire. He wants to go to Italy and then further west to Spain. So there's a missional purpose. There's also an apologetic purpose. Paul has never visited the church in Rome. Someone else founded this church. So he wants to present himself and his gospel in a way that will get them on side, to bring them into his orbit. And then many scholars today think there's also a pastoral purpose. And they go to Romans 14 and 15 and they say there's a dispute in Rome between the strong and the weak over Jewish diet and calendar, and Paul addresses those divisions right throughout the letter. In fact, one scholar has said that the best way to read Romans is, in the title of his book, read Romans backwards from Romans 14, not literally, but thinking everything up to Romans 14 is leading to a resolution of that dispute. Now, my own view is there is a pastoral purpose of Romans, but it's much broader than dealing with division. And we pick that up from what we call the letter frame. So in 1:11, the beginning and end of the letter. In 1:11, Paul says, I want to impart to you a spiritual gift. And in 1:15, he says, I want to preach the gospel to you. So we ask ourselves, well, why would Paul be preaching the gospel, this gift he wants to give them, if they're already Christians? And I think the hint is he wants to impart this spiritual gift to strengthen them. So in one sense, the book of Romans is Paul presenting his gospel in full and all its implications to strengthen the Roman believers. And in 16:25, right at the end of the letter, he says exactly that. He says, now may God strengthen you with my gospel, the preaching of Jesus Christ. So making Christians strong to face sin, to have hope, to deal with hardship, to love our enemies, to be submissive to government, all of those things come together for Paul with his gospel message. The really remarkable thing is the verb that Paul uses to strengthen is used just another 4 times in his letters, in 1 and 2 Thessalonians, or as Americans say, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, where he's already preached the gospel to that church, and he writes to strengthen them. And even more remarkable, Luke uses a similar verb to strengthen 4 times in the book of Acts, where Paul's already established a church, then he comes back and he takes the gospel and strengthens them. So I think it's really helpful to think about how does understanding the gospel help us to deal with the challenges of the Christian life, and Romans is a remarkably full answer to that question.